I'm just okay. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أجمعين. Welcome everyone to our first session, Sisters exclusive Hajj webinar. This is really exciting. Alhamdulillah, this is the first time the sisters are getting their exclusive time. So Alhamdulillah, um, Hajj is often called the journey of a lifetime, and correctly so, because it can erase the sins of a lifetime. But if you think about it, it's even more than that, because it can build more than just a lifetime. It can build an eternity for us. And there's a narration from the Sahihain of Imam Bukhari and Muslim, rahimahullah ta'ala, which says, a narration you all know, وَالْحَجُّ الْمَبْرُورِ لَيْسَ لَهُ الْجَزَاء إِلَّا الْجَنَّةِ, that an accepted Hajj, there is no other recompense for it except paradise. So, more accurately than saying, it's a journey of a lifetime, it's actually a journey for a beautiful eternity. It's not just the journey for a lifetime. And the manasik of Hajj, manasik are the rituals of Hajj. And I know some of us are very nervous about that because it's a lot more complex than Umrah, and Umrah is a lot easier and simpler. But the manasik can be learned in many ways. And we'll go over some of those things today to make you more comfortable and more familiar with them. I know you've gone through some of them through the previous webinars. And of course, we must learn them, and it is important to be prepared at every level. It is important to be organized and prepare our bags and our papers. And it's very important to have the knowledge about the various Hajj rituals. But perhaps the most important thing is preparing our hearts for this journey. That's where the real work and the fruit takes place. And as one of our great scholars said, that we do not traverse the distance between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with our bodies, we traverse it with our hearts. So as we physically journey to his house, we must go with hearts that are prepared to present ourselves, to present themselves to him. And some of the things you're going to learn about the various days of Hajj and the rites and rituals of Hajj, many of them are going to be reminiscent of what our meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be like in the hereafter, like the two garments of ihram. Often it's said that they resemble the coffin that we are buried in. And Yom al-Arafah has many similarities to the gathering of Yom al-Hashr, of Yom al-Qiyamah itself, right? And one of the things about the Day of Judgment, as we have from Surah Ash-Shu'ara, verse 88, يَوْمَ لَا يَنْفَعُ مَالٌ وَلَا بَنُونَ إِلَّا مَنْ أَتَى اللَّهَ بِقَلْبٍ سَلِيمٍ. This verse, which is about the Day of Judgment, a day when nothing will, mal, wealth, and children will not benefit except the one who comes with a sound heart. So, just like it's the sound heart that will benefit us on Yawm al-Qiyamah, it is the same with Hajj. The one who will get the most out of his or her Hajj is the one that goes with qalb salim, with the sound heart that is free of defects, that is free of grudges and jealousy and animosity and other attachments and greed. Because all of these things, whether we realize it or not, they take up space in our hearts. And whatever space they take up, there is that much less left to be filled with love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the best preparation for Hajj is really cultivating a pure heart that loves and longs for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the person who's going to get the most out of their Hajj journey. And then we will have to ponder about the incredible chance Allah has given us to make this journey in the first place, right? We have to actively start feeling shukr for this phenomenal blessings. We have our brothers and sisters in Palestine that are suffering in Gaza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alleviate their plight and help us elevate the ummah in whatever capacity that we can. They're in no situation to even be thinking about something like this. They have no means. They're inshallah already elevated through their sabr. We have this opportunity. to go to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have to realize the grandness of it all, right? This is what you see in the background. This is a grand picture of Makkah. It's an aerial view. And to really actively start feeling gratitude for this grandiose opportunity to visit his house in the sacred month and to reenact the monastic of our father Ibrahim alayhi salam, to do the same things that he did, the same thing that our Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam did in the same place, to literally walk in those footsteps, you know, um, for not it to be just a ritualized routine, but it to be an active remembrance of in the prophets before us who did this, and even the angels themselves who do tawaf around Bayt al-Ma'mur, right, as we're doing tawaf around the Kaaba. So to remember these things actively, and not just to get bogged down by the details and the complexities of, steps A, B, and C, which are definitely important, um, but will be more meaningful when the spirit behind them is kept afresh. So this shukr that we want to cultivate, brings us more and more of Allah's blessings. When we thank Allah for one blessings, He opens up the doors to many more. And this is something we have complete yaqeen in because Allah said so in Surah Ibrahim in verse 7. وَإِذْ تَأَذَّنَ رَبُّكُمْ لَإِنْ شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. Right? And when your Lord proclaimed that if you are grateful, لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, I shall surely grant you increase. I shall surely grant you more. So let's make the intention right now to really start developing and deepening the shukr for this opportunity. And if we can do that starting now, we're about a month away or less, actually, about a few weeks away before departing. Um, to believe that if we can deepen this sense of shukr, that we will certainly experience the mazid because Allah has promised that to us. If you look at the verse from Surah Hajj that I just quoted, it ends with, and as your Lord, when your Lord proclaimed, if you are grateful, la azidannakum, I shall surely grant you increase. The lam in Arabic is what we call lam al-tawqid, the lam of certainty. Yani, so the way you translate that is, I will certainly increase you. So there will be this certain increase of blessings in our lives and in our Hajj if we approach it, from a place of gratitude, not from a place of being overwhelmed, um, but from a place of really being thankful. So we want to get into this mindset, inshallah. Want to imagine the footsteps of Ibrahim alayhi salam and Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to remember all of these tidbits about about shukr and about qalbun salim as we prepare to really soak in the magnificence of it all. Um, like imagine if you received a direct invitation from the king of a powerful country, right? That if he wanted you to come to his house and he was going to give you an audience with him, how excited would you be, right? How well you would prepare, how you would, look your very best. And subhanAllah, if you think about Hajj, no one can go without receiving an invitation from the Lord of the worlds. You cannot go if he does not invite you. Yesterday, my sister-in-law was telling us one of her colleagues who's much older, she's about 50, finally got the chance to go for Hajj this year, and she was very you know anxious about whether she would get the approval or not. And just recently she got the approval, and she's older, being 50 plus, she feels like it's now or never. And she finally got the approval and she was extremely excited for her and her husband. And then they just found out their husband needs bypass surgery and he did not receive medical clearance for travel. So, subhanAllah, it's like if Allah doesn't will it for you, facilitate it for you, invite you, you can't go no matter what. So we want to do our very best, be our very best. And our Lord, He does not look at us physically, right? There's an authentic hadith in Sahih Muslim which says, "Inna Allah la yanzuru ila ajsamikum wala ila suwarikum, walakin yanzuru ila qulubikum wa amalikum." That Allah does not look at your figures nor at your appearances, any physical appearances, but He looks at your hearts and He looks at your deeds. So, really, the preparation for Hajj, the main preparation, the most important preparation is preparing our hearts making them salim, free of defects, as pure as possible, and to fill them with longing and love and gratitude for this opportunity. And this is going to set us up for the journey not of a lifetime, but the journey for an eternity, for building an eternity. Okay, so that I think was the most important part. And everything else that I'm going to talk about, you can learn from anywhere else. You can learn from books, you can learn from webinars. But we're just going to talk about it a little bit to make you more familiar with the terminology, with some of the manasik. By manasik, we mean the rites, rites, not the rights we have on each other, but the rites as in the rituals, the acts of a worship that are required part of a valid Hajj. So in Arabic, we call that manasik. Okay, so you'll hear that word used a lot. So if you look at Hajj, it is the fifth pillar, right? It is the last to become mandated, obligated, made mandatory in the ninth year of the Hijrah, for those, of course, that have the means to undertake the journey. And if you look at the linguistic meaning of Hajj in the Arabic language, so whenever we study something, we look at its meaning, traditionally what it means in the Arabic language, and then what meaning it has in the Islamic Sharia, Islamic terminology. So linguistically, Hajj means qasd, right? Qasd is literally seeking something or intending something, but it's to do so intensely or abundantly. Um, and it's qasd, seeking that thing, intending that thing a lot or intensely or abundantly, that thing which is deeply revered in your heart. So it's not just intending like to have breakfast, but it's intending the house of God, right? And that's the Islamic meaning of it. It's qasd, yes, but it's qasd for its intention, it's seeking the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in order to perform specific acts of worship, the ihram, the tawaf, all the various manasik at the specified times, yani in the months of Hajj. And some of us may be surprised to know that actually Shawwal is considered a month of Hajj. So the Qa'dah, which is the month we are in now, and then the Hijjah, which is the main days of Hajj. And we'll explain later on why these are considered months of Hajj. No one does Hajj in Shawwal, so why is Shawwal considered a month of Hajj? We'll talk about this inshallah later. So some important vocabulary I did hear in the webinar yesterday, that some of this vocabulary was reviewed. So we'll just go over it as a revision. It is obviously some important words we should be familiar with. Now, as you know, there are different types of Hajj, and we're going to be doing the one that is called Tamattu', right? Which is both Umrah and Hajj. So the first word we want to be familiar with is the word Umrah, because it's going to be a part of the type of Hajj that we're going to do. And Umrah, as everyone knows, and many of you may have already performed Umrah, it's basically visiting the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doing the tawaf, the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, and then cutting your hair for women and cutting or shaving for men. And the time frame of this is throughout the year. You can perform Umrah, versus Hajj is a specified time period. Even if you do all the rites of Hajj, but if you don't do it in the time period, in the months of Hajj, then it doesn't count as a Hajj. But Umrah, you could do it anytime. So that's one major difference between the two. The other word, the Sheikh did mention this yesterday, was the difference between rukn and wajib, and something that is sunnah. The reason I want to go over these is because sometimes people get very nervous and concerned that, oh, I missed this action. Does my Hajj count? Will I have to do a sacrifice? Will I have to repeat this, act of worship? So if we know the difference between a rukn and something that is wajib versus something that is sunnah, then we don't have to undergo that confusion and that anxiety, especially when it's not something that needs anything to be done in order to make up for it. Okay, so let me explain. Rukn is that action, that ritual, that ibadah, that act of worship in Hajj or Umrah, that if you leave out, the entire act becomes invalid, meaning it doesn't count at all. Okay, so think of it like the walls of a house. If you don't have furniture, you have a house. But if you don't have walls, there is no house. So rukn, the plural of which is arkan, and a rukn means a pillar. Okay, literally that's how it's translated. Um, these are things without which, yes, your Hajj or Umrah would be invalid. Okay, like for example, if you didn't do the sa'i between Safa and Marwa, there you didn't do Umrah. If you don't do the tawaf, there's no Umrah. Okay. Um, Something that is wajib is that action or that ritual from the rituals of Hajj or Umrah. If you left it out, if you omitted it, if for some reason you didn't do it, then a sacrifice becomes wajib. Wajib meaning mandatory. Okay, a sacrifice or fasting as expiation becomes mandatory. You do the sacrifice to make up for it. If you can't perform the sacrifice, then you can fast in place of the sacrifice. For example, if you didn't do the sacrifice on the 10th of the Hijjah, which is when you sacrifice, on Yom Nahar, which is the 10th of the Hijjah. So let's say you didn't do that on that day. You omitted something that was wajib, you omitted something that was mandatory, and now you're going to have to make up for that. Okay. Um, and generally, as we said, you make up for it by offering a sacrifice or by fasting. So that's a difference between rukn and wajib. Rukn is something that cannot be made up for. You have to do it. And wajib, an act that is wajib, yani mandatory, if omitted, can still be made up for you, and you can still save your Hajj by offering a sacrifice or fasting. Okay. Sunnah, something that is sunnah, as most of you already know, if you miss one of these, what you basically miss out is on the reward you would have gotten if you had observed the sunnah, but there is nothing else that is required. There's no expiation, there is no dam. By dam literally means blood, and in Hajj terminology, dam refers to the sacrifice that is offered. Okay, so dam literally, it's in the Quran, right? Dam just means blood. When we speak in Arabic and want to use the word blood, you say dam. So it simply means blood. But in Hajj terminology, you use the word dam to refer to the sacrifice that is made often to make up for something that you omitted, some obligatory act that you omitted. Okay. Um, but Sunnah has no such, has no such dam or sacrifice or expiation required. You simply don't get the reward that you would have gotten had you observed the Sunnah, which is obviously the most recommended way of doing something, the way Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam did it. So, for example, a Sunnah is to enter the Haram through Bab al-Salam, right? But, like the Shaykh have been mentioning, sometimes that's not possible logistically, etc., right? Also, it is sunnah for men to do ramal, to walk quickly in the first 3 rounds of tawaf, in the first tawaf that they do upon arriving in Mecca, and also to uncover their right shoulder. Obviously, there's something for men, but it is sunnah, right? So if they forgot to do it, it's not like their tawaf is invalid and they would have to repeat it. No, they just missed out on a sunnah. And of course, had they done it, there would have been the reward for that. Another term that's important to be familiar with is fidya. Again, it's something you know. And in the context of Hajj, this is expiation, yes, and it can be offered in the form of dam, dam meaning blood. Blood drips when you sacrifice an animal. So that's how you can remember that dam has to do with sacrificing an animal. So fidya, expiation for certain acts or omitting certain things, can be given in the form of a sacrifice, or again, fasting for 3 days, or feeding 6 people, right? And for certain acts of Hajj, when omitted, you have to fast 3 days in Hajj and 7 days when you get back home for a total of 10 days, right? This is actually in the Quran. So, what are some things, if you do them, you would have to offer fidya? So, just some examples so you have an idea of when fidya becomes a consideration. For example, if you, obviously for men in a state of ihram, if they covered their head, or if anyone clips their nails during ihram, or if men wear sewn clothing. Obviously, this does not apply to women. We wear our regular clothes in ihram. Um, if you purposely shave or cut your hair even a little bit while in a state of ihram, if you use scented items while in a state of ihram, then these things would require fidya. Okay, so that was just a little bit of terminology, basic terminology, difference between rukn and wajib, knowing what sunnah is. If you miss those deeds, it's okay, but you did miss out on the ajr. So obviously you want to have a maximally, sunnah compliant Hajj, obviously, so to maximize our reward. So that's why it's important to learn about these things. So we do everything in the best way, most optimal way, which is the prophetic way, the sunnah, and then to know what the fidya is, not to be confused with other things. Okay, so now let's talk a little. Are there any questions actually before I move on to the next section? So we just talked about some basic terminology and some spiritual preparation. Are there any questions? We can take them section by section. I have a couple more sections.
I do have questions.
Yes, you have a
Salam
question?
alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
For example, if my husband, he cannot sleep without covering his head, that means he has to do fidya, right? And to make fidya, is it obligatory to make it into the day of Eid, like the sacrifice of Eid, at the same time, or we have time to do it at any time we want? Jazakallah.
You're saying your husband has a medical condition where he has to cover his head? Is that what you said?
No, when he doesn't cover his head, he gets sick.
Oh, I see.
When he's sleeping, I'm talking about Muzdalifah, especially in the like outside.
Oh, I see. Well, this is actually something that we can ask we have some medical doctors on our team as well. So inshallah, that is something that we can ask them and then post on the group. Generally, when people have a situation that makes them sick, generally Sharia has compensations and allowances for that. But what I can do is check with our medical doctor on the team and inshallah post the answer on the group. Would that be okay?
I'm just wondering if in this case he has to make fidya. So for fidya, he has to do it whenever he has chance, or just in the same time that he do the sacrifice.
Yeah,
For
yeah,
Eid.
I'm not aware of a time frame that the fidya must be offered in. So inshallah we can find out about that. It doesn't seem to be that you have to do it on the same exact day. That may not be possible, especially if you're in Muzdalifah for the night. So inshallah we can definitely refer this question and post more details as they become available, inshallah.
Okay, Jazakallah
All right.
khairan. So
Okay, so here on the screen you have an infographic. You may have seen this before, and it basically outlines the various steps, rituals of Hajj, and they do look like a lot, but if you break them down, inshallah, into their days, like we'll do, it'll become easier. And everyone, I recommend, everyone should kind of have their own notes, make their own charts. That's really the best way to understand these things for yourselves. What I wanted to go over was the three different types of Hajj, just so that you're familiar with them. We will be doing inshallah Hajj al-Tamattu. That's the one that we're going to be doing as a group. The Sheikh did mention yesterday that if someone comes in very late, very close to the 8th, right when the Hajj is about to start, they may not be able to do Tamattu. They may just do Hajj al-Ifrad, which is why I'll mention some key features of the three types of Hajj so that you're familiar what some of the key differences. Hajj al-Ifrad is generally done by people who reside within the Miqat. Yani they live in the Haram grounds, boundaries, or they live in Jeddah. And basically, what this entails is Hajj only with no Umrah. That's the first thing. Okay. So Hajj al-Ifrad, just like the word Ifrad, it has to do with being only Hajj or individual Hajj. That's basically what it is. There's no Umrah. It's only a Hajj. And the other two types of Hajj, Hajj al-Qiran and Hajj al-Tamattu, they both include an Umrah. So this is the main difference between this Hajj and the other two types of Hajj. So when you put on your ihram, you make your intention for Hajj al-Ifrad. Okay? And The one who does this type of Hajj is called a mufrid, and this person remains in ihram until they are done stoning the jamarat, which is one of the last things that you do towards the end of the Hajj days. That's one of the last action you keep doing until the end of the days of Hajj. And this is the only type of Hajj where animal sacrifice is not mandatory. Um, the sacrifice is not mandatory in Hajj al-Ifrad. Now, Hajj al-Qiran, the second type of Hajj, again includes both Hajj and Umrah. And Umrah, of course, you do first. And again, at the time of putting on the ihram, physically you put the ihram on, but ihram really is a state of making your intention for the type of ibadah you are about to enter into. So if you're doing Hajj al-Qiran, then you make your intention for both Hajj and Umrah. And a person who does this type of Hajj is referred to as Qarin, one who is doing Hajj al-Qiran. And the key distinguishing feature of this type of Hajj is that you perform both the Hajj and the Umrah with the same ihram. So, regardless of how much time there is between when you did the Umrah and when you actually finish or start the Hajj, you keep the same ihram on. You don't get out of ihram. Okay, so this is why it's a bit more challenging to do this, especially if you arrive, quite a few days before the days of Hajj begin. My friend just told me the first plane from some countries is already gone for Hajj from their respective countries. So some people arrive really early. So if they make the niyyah for Hajj al-Qiran, they put on the ihram for Umrah because that's the first thing you do once you enter the Haram. You enter Makkah with Umrah. It's really hard to stay in ihram with all its restrictions until the days of Hajj start, which are still about, almost 1 month away. So that is the restriction with Hajj al-Qiran. So this is what this is a good option for those who arrive just a day or two before the Hajj, and they're sure they can keep all the rules of and restrictions of ihram, and they don't need to get out of it and then go again into another ihram for Hajj. They just want to do everything in one go, in one Hajj, in one ihram. Then this is a viable option for them. And again, the animal sacrifice would be mandatory. So this is really theoretical for most of us, since we're going to be doing, inshallah, Hajj at-Tamattu. This is actually, statistically, this is the most commonly performed Hajj type, Hajj at-Tamattu. And it also has, the nice feature of coming out of ihram, which is why it's called tamattu, which means to enjoy. It's from mata'. Mata' is also lots of times mentioned in the Quran. Mata' al-hayat ad-dunya, yani the enjoyment of the life of this world. So mata' is literally something that you enjoy. So someone doing Hajj at-Tamattu is called a mutamatti because they enjoy getting out of ihram and being relieved of its restrictions before they put the ihram again for Hajj when the days of Hajj draw near. Okay, so that's the really convenient thing about Hajj at-Tamattu. Okay, and you don't have to get into ihram again after you've done your umrah. Get out of ihram. You don't have to get into ihram again until the 8th day of the Hijjah, which is Yom Tarwiyah, and that's when you enter into your ihram for Hajj. And these umrahs that you're doing, the intention you're making for doing both Hajj and Umrah, that are part of Hajj al-Qiran, that are part of Hajj al-Tamattu, these umrahs are the ones that must be performed in the Hajj season. So this is what I meant about, okay, we'll explain why Shawwal and the Qa'dah and the Hijjah are considered months of Hajj. It means that if you're doing Hajj al-Qiran or Hajj al-Tamattu, if you make your intention when you're entering into Ihram to do both Umrah and Hajj, for it to count as Hajj al-Qiran or Hajj al-Tamattu, which includes the Umrah along with the Hajj, it has to be done within the months of Hajj. So if someone comes in Shawwal with the intention to do, let's say, Hajj al-Tamattu, and they do their Umrah in the beginning, and then they come out of Ihram, um, because they did the Umrah in Shawwal, which is a month of Hajj, that Umrah counts as the one they were going to do as part of Hajj al-Tamattu, as part of doing Hajj and Umrah, but with two different Ihrams. Okay, so that's a technical point. If you didn't understand it, it's not a big deal. It's for those that want to know why Shawwal is considered a month of Hajj. It's a little technical point. Again, the animal sacrifice is mandatory. And again, if you can't do it, then there's that fasting for 10 days, 3 days in Hajj, and 7 when you get back. Okay, so now we have some more important terminology, which is called the miqat. Miqat makani, and there's something called miqat zamani. You must already know about this. Miqat is that place that you're not supposed to cross without being in a state of ihram. Okay, so there is a physical miqat, makani, and then there is a miqat zamani. Zaman has to do with time. Makan means place, right? So the miqat that has to do with the place means you can't cross that place without putting on your ihram. And if you're in a plane coming into Jeddah, they'll usually announce on the plane that you're about to uh, cross the miqat. So get into your ihram now. So some people will put on their ihrams on the plane. And of course, it's difficult sometimes to put it on the plane. So people will actually put on their ihrams at the airport before boarding the plane. But the intention that you make for ihram, because ihram is not just the clothing that you're wearing, those are the ihram garments, more visibly so for men. But ihram really is the intention that you make to enter into that spiritual state of ihram where you have intended the house of God as you are crossing the miqat and you start doing the talbiyah. So it's really an intention that you make for the Hajj or the Umrah, or both in our case. Okay, so that's the miqat in terms of physical place when you make that intention. And miqat zamani, we already covered this, is the specific time frame when you can enter into ihram for a valid Hajj or Umrah, and that would be the months of Hajj, Shawwal, Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and so on. And for Umrah, of course, the miqat is throughout the year. You can do just Umrah anytime you want, but for Hajj, there are specific months. Okay, now let's talk a little bit about the Hajj itself. So, Hajj really is just 6 days total, and we start counting from the 8th day of the Hijjah, which is called Yom at-Tarwiyah. In English, it would be Tarwiyah, Tarwiyah. And literally, it means the day of quenching thirst. And it was given this name because this is the day that, the pilgrims in the old days, they would be told to drink as much water as they can and to fill up all their water containers for the long journey ahead because they would be heading to Mina and camping there. And basically, that becomes their base for the majority of the Hajj days. So, this was the time to take care of your most important needs for yourselves and your animals, which was water at that time in the desert. You want to make sure you have your drinking water, you're filling up your containers with water, and your animals are drinking water. So that's why, became called Yom Tarwiyah. So anyhow, that is day 8. Okay, so you go from Mecca to Mina on the 8th day of the Hijjah, and obviously you have already entered into the ihram. That means you have already made your niyyah for the Hajj. So as you're leaving Makkah, you get into your ihram, you make the niyyah for Hajj, you start doing the talbiyah, and you head off to Mina. This is done on the 8th day of the Hajj. Okay, then once you get to Mina, you actually pray all your prayers from Zuhr until Isha. You pray them in Mina and you shorten all of them. Okay, so Dhuhr you'll be combining with Asr and Maghrib you'll be combining with Isha on day 8 at Mina. The next day is the main day, day 9. Okay, and that, of course, is Yom Arafah. So after sunrise, so remember, day 8 you came to Mina, you prayed Zuhr to Isha in Mina, you slept in Mina, you got up, you prayed Fajr in Mina, and then it's day 9, it's Yom Arafah, it's the main day of Hajj. This is a rukun of Hajj. If you miss Arafah, you have missed the Hajj. There's no dam, no fidya, no nothing that can make up for missing Yom Arafah. Okay, so this is the perfect example for what a rukn means, right? A rukn is something you cannot make up for in any other way. You would have to come back another year to do Hajj if for some reason, like, someone slept all through the day of Arafah, never got there, never went there at all. So inshallah, that doesn't happen to anyone. And on day 9, after sunrise, you go to Arafah. Again, reciting the talbiyah. And you stay in Arafah the whole entire day until sunset. You even combine Dhuhr and Asr on Arafah. It's basically a day for dua. It is a day for begging Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for supplicating, for dhikr. And it's such a high dua focused day that you even combine the prayers. You do them together, Zuhr and Asr, right? And you don't even pray Maghrib at sunset at Arafah. It's purely dua focused, dhikr focused day. And then at Maghrib, you go to Muzdalifah after sunset and you pray Maghrib and Isha combined in the time of Isha at Muzdalifah. You combine and you shorten there. And that's where you get to sleep. Now, like the Sheikh was mentioning yesterday, Muzdalifah is nothing like the hotels we're used to in Makkah and Medina. There are no hotels when we were there. And it's nothing like the tents at Mina, which are quite comfortable and, furnished and AC. It is basically an open ground. Sometimes you'll get a mattress, sometimes you won't. It's rocky because it's, remember, lots of pebbles. This is where you're going to be collecting your pebbles. So it's a day and a time to make sure that, we don't complain at all, because we are so focused on being thankful and grateful that we can't express enough gratitude, so we don't have time to complain. Okay. Complaining is not something that is befitting a person who has been invited to the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that happens so often. I was really shocked last time we were in Hajj to see how people would complain about even the food. And that is so embarrassing. It's so shameful to act in such a way when you have been invited by the Lord of the worlds. You have the potential to gain Jannah through this great act, and you're completely proving yourself unworthy by complaining about something like food. So we don't want to be that haji, right? We don't want to be that pilgrim. It's like an oxymoron, a haji that complains about food or gets angry. So Muzdalifah is rough. It's supposed to be rough, but it's okay, because the reward for this is paradise. So it doesn't matter how rough it is. It's only one night. And besides, you're so tired from all the walking and Yom Arafah and everything that you're going to sleep quite well, inshallah. So you sleep in Muzdalifah. That was the 9th, right? And then you sleep there. You get up. It's the 10th of the Hijjah, which is Yom al-Nahr, one of the very busy day, one of the busiest days during the Hajj. You get up, you pray Fajr at Muzdalifah, and this is where you gather your 70 stones. Why 70? We'll explain why you do, yes, need exactly 70. And from there you go to Mina. Why are you going to Mina? It's the 10th of the Hijjah. The first thing you're going to do is go to Mina. After you pray Fajr in Muzdalifah, you go to Mina to stone Jamarat al-Aqaba, right? The big, what is it called? The big shaitan, the big pillar. I don't know what it's called in English. So it's the biggest of the 3 that you stone at the Jamarat. So every time you stone each pillar with 7 stones, but on the 10th of the Hijjah, you only stone the big one, the biggest one, okay, Jamarat al-Aqaba. So you only need 7 stones. So you have how many stones left? 70 minus 7. How many do you have left? 63. Yeah. Okay. So save those 63 stones that you collected in Muzdalifah for stoning that you'll do later on, later in the days of Hajj. Okay. So you're done stoning. Now the next thing is that you have to do the sacrifice. Okay. Obviously it's done these days by someone on our behalf, but that is something that obviously you pay for, and it's one of the amal, the acts or the rituals that are part of the 10th, which is called Yom al-Nahr, literally the day of sacrifice. Okay, so that it's easy to remember. If you know day 10 is called Yom al-Nahr, the day of sacrifice, then you know one of the things that's going to happen that day of the rituals of Hajj is the sacrifice, and then there is the shaving of the head for the men. Obviously, the women just clip their hair. After these three things are done, stoning, the Jamarat al-Aqaba, the big one, and then the dhabh, the slaughter, the animal sacrifice, the hadi. Hadi is that's the term used in the Quran. Hada alif maqsura hadi, and it refers to the animal sacrifice associated with Hajj. Okay, so if you hear hadi, it means the dhabh or the sacrifice, the slaughtering. They're all interchangeable pretty much. So the stoning is done, the dhabh is done, and then the shaving or the clipping of the hair for women. After these three things are done, you are now in a state of tahallul al-asghar. All that means is a minor coming out of the state of ihram. You are not fully out of the state of ihram, but most of the ihram restrictions have been lifted. So you can clip your nails now, you can shave your hair if needed, you can put on, you know, use scented soap, etc. But so most things become allowed except for spousal relations. Spousal relations do not become allowed because this is not the full tahleel. This is not the fully coming out of the state of ihram. This is a partial or minor removal of the ihram restrictions. For you to come out of all the ihram restrictions fully, there's still other things you're going to have to do, which are the following. So after you've done these things, now these three things, the stoning, the animal sacrifice, and the shaving or clipping of the hair, you've entered into the minor minor state of ihram restriction removal. Now you go on to Mecca and you do Tawaf al-Ifada. Okay, this is also mentioned in the Quran, right? ثم أفيضوا من حيث أفاض الناس, right? You do the Tawaf al-Ifada, the seven, obviously. One Tawaf is 7 rounds. There's no such thing as one round is one Tawaf. One Tawaf is 7 rounds. So you do the Tawaf al-Ifada and then you do the Sa'i. Obviously, you pray the 2 rak'ahs behind Maqam Ibrahim, that's Sunnah. But the Tawaf al-Ifada and the Sa'i between Safa and Marwa. Once you have completed these 2 actions, now you are fully out of the state of Ihram completely. Tawaful, Ifada, and Sa'i between Safa and Marwa. These 2 are the actions. Once completed, you have now entered Tahallul al-Akbar, which basically just means the bigger tahallul, the bigger coming out of the state of ihram. So now everything is permissible that would be permissible to you normally, including spousal relations. Okay. So now this is the 10th, right? So now you have 11, 12, 13, 3 more days of Hajj left, right? Remember we said Hajj is 6 days. We start 8th, Yom Tarwiyah, 9th, Yom Arafah, 10, Yom Nahar. Okay, so 8, 9, 10 are done. 3 are done. 3 are left. 11, 12, and 13. Now, 11, 12, and 13, these 3 days of Hajj, which are also called Ayam at-Tashriq, okay? Don't worry about the Arabic terminology. 11, 12, and 13 is fine. They all have their own names. For those of you that are curious and interested, I'll tell you what they're called. Each day has a name. It's kind of cool. So what are we going to do on the 11th and the 12th and the 13th? You stay at Mina, and every day the main action is stoning the Jamarat. Remember on day 10, you only stoned the big one. Now you're going to stone the big one and the middle one and the smallest one. Okay. Jamrat al-Aqaba, wal-Wusta, wal-Sughra. Okay, all 3 of them. Literally, that just means the big one, the middle one, and the small one. Okay. Each one you stone with 7 stones. So that's 7 times 3 is 21. So that means you need 21 stones every day to stone each one, 7 stones, right? So that's 21 stones. So you need that for the 11th, you need 21 stones. For the 12th, you need 21 stones. And for the 13th, you need 21 stones. So that's 21 plus 21 plus 21 equals 63. Okay. So that's how you need 63 for those 3 days. Remember, you used up 7 on the 10th. So this is how and why you need 70 stones. Okay. For those of you that are curious, day 11 is called Yawm al-Qarra, and the reason it's called that is because some of the books mention how because the Hujjaj yuqarruna fihi bi Mina, because they're staying in Mina starting the 11th. Well, you've been there already from the 8th, but you stay there, you continue to stay there on the 11th and the 12th and the 13th. And then the 12th day is called Yom al-Nafar al-Awwal. Again, don't have to know these names at all. It's just for those that, like to know these types of details in Arabic. It won't affect anything if you don't know what it's called in Arabic. But for those of you that are curious, Yom al-Nafar al-Awwal, the 12th day is called that because this is the day that if people want to leave, they can leave on the 12th day. They don't have to stay till the 13th. But I remember the Sheikh said yesterday that if you want to leave on the 12th, you have to leave before sunset. But if somehow you get delayed and you're still in Mina at sunset on the 12th, then you have to stay till the next day. And of course, if you want, you can stay till the 13th, which is called Yom Nafr al-Thani. Literally just means the day of the second group. So Yom Nafr al-Awwal, day 12 is the day of the first group, yani the day the first group can leave if they want to leave. And day 13 is called Yom Nafr al-Thani, which is the day that obviously the second group, literally meaning the second group, yani those group of people that decided and wanted to stay until the 13th. They're the other group as compared to the group that wanted to leave on the 12th. Both are permissible. And then the 13th concludes the last day of Hajj. And of course, again, it has the stoning of the three Jamarat, just like the 11th and the 12th and the 13th. So, inshallah, you know what I'll do is I'll save the questions till the end. I see that you are typing in the questions. So, we'll inshallah take a look at all of them at the end, inshallah. Okay. So that was an overview of Hajj, a very simple overview of Hajj. Hopefully it's becoming clear the more times you hear about it. And if not, like the Sheikh had mentioned, inshallah, the guides are going to be there guiding you through the process. And I'm sure you'll have, references. So no one will be lost in terms of what to do. Inshallah, we'll all be doing it together. Okay, now I wanted to just show you some of the special places in the Haram itself. Because this is an overview of the Haram. Okay, those are some. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about was Hijr al-Ismail, which is right over here. You can see it on your screen. Also called Hatim. Okay, right here. And it's basically that semicircle in the mataf area. What do we mean by mataf? Mataf is the place of tawaf. Okay, so in Arabic, when you want to call something the place where a particular action is done, you just put a meme in front of it. So like masjid is the place of sajda, so you just put a meme in front of it. So masjid, place of sujud, place of sajda. So this is where you do tawaf, so you just put a meme in front of a word that sounds like tawaf, mataf, right? So the place of tawaf. So it's interesting to know that this part, al-Hatim, this semicircle in the mataf area is actually considered part of the Kaaba. So that's a really cool fact about this. The more you know details about the Haram, the more you're going to enjoy being in it, the more fascinated you can be, and the more thankful you can become for being there and witnessing these things. And these are the sha'air of Islam. And who knows if this is, the last time we'll be able to do the Hajj. So, to really enjoy and soak in and, appreciate everything. So the more details you know, the more enriching experience you'll have. So this is why I want to mention some of the special places in the Haram itself. So when you do tawaf, make sure you do tawaf around the Hatim and not inside of it, because it is considered part of the Kaaba. The Quraysh, when they were rebuilding the Kaaba, they kind of ran out of like halal money that they had designated to use for building the Kaaba. And when they ran out of money, they kind of just left it unbuilt. So it's considered part of the Kaaba. So you'll see, I mean, no one really makes this mistake because everyone is doing tawaf with millions of others and everyone goes around the Hatim. But it is recommended mustahab to pray inside of it if you can. It'll be very crowded, so it'll be hard to do. But it's recommended to pray in there. Dua is considered mustajab. But dua is mustajab anywhere, especially in the haram. Okay, then you have Maqam Ibrahim. So that's right over here. This has the footprints of Ibrahim alayhi salam. It is said that when him and Ismail alayhi salam were building the Kaaba, Ibrahim alayhi salam kind of moved a little distance back just to make sure the building was going properly and everything was straight and looking good. So he would step back and stand here and kind of look at the Kaaba. So his footprints are preserved there. So that's a very special spot right there. The well of Zamzam, I think I do have a picture. Yeah, okay. So this is really very cool how you have a visual here. This is actually where the well of Zamzam came out of, as Hajar alayhi salam was going between Safa and Marwa, and it just like sprouts out from this area very close to the Kaaba, right? This is Safa and Marwa like over here. So it's like right between the Kaaba and Safa and Marwa, this Zamzam comes out. So, we just see the canisters of Zamzam outside, but we don't think of the miracle that is really gushing right beneath our feet as we're, doing the tawaf, as we're in this space. This is where it happened. This is where Jibreel alayhi salam, struck his wing and Zamzam started coming out forever. So again, know where you are, so you can feel that fascination and realize, how special and blessed it is to be there. Okay, then you have Al-Multazam. Okay, let's see if I could get the picture for that one. Okay, I don't know why this is not responding. I did have a picture of the Multazam. Okay, let's see if we can bring that up in a moment. Okay, here we go. So this is also a very nice fact to know. The Multazam, you can see the arrow on your screen. It's literally a small space between the black stone, which is in the corner, and the door of the Kaaba. So it's a relatively small space. And it's recommended to make dua here, again, because of the millions of people trying to do the same thing. We're probably not going to get a chance, especially as women, it's almost impossible. But it literally, multazam means place of clinging, right? So, iltizam is clinging. So multazam, again, remember I told you put a meme and it becomes a place of doing that act. So multazam is literally means the place of clinging. And it's basically a place to kind of cling onto the Kaaba and make dua. And, obviously, again, dua is mustajab. But that's just, it's reported from some of the Sahaba that this is actually that spot. So if you see people, doing that, or if you read about al-multazam, that's what that is all about. Okay, so those were some special features of the Kaaba. Of course, there are many more, but we'll leave it at that for now. And now we'll go on to your questions, inshallah, in the half hour I think that we have left. No, actually, we have more time. And we'll go on to female related considerations. I saw some of them already coming up here. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull up the first question. Okay, so we're just going to scroll up and take your questions and then also address some of the special female related questions. Okay, so I'll bring up one of our most needed medications is going to be this one. Okay, Parmalut. So this is actually directly related to the question Sister Fatima is asking. What happens if we can't do Umrah due to period? Do we just do Hajj Qirani? Oh, actually, that's a really good question. That actually would make a lot of sense if you have your period when you get to Mecca and you can't immediately do Umrah because of your period. then what you can do actually, yeah, Hajj al Qiran would work out really well because what your question implies is that you will um, be done with your period before moving to Mina on day 8, and then you can enter into Ihram and do your Umrah and make the intention for both Hajj and Umrah. This makes sense if it's close to the 8th of the Hijjah, which is when you'll be entering into the Ihram for Hajj anyway. So, yes, you can certainly do that. Make the niyyah for Hajj al Quran. Hajj al Quran works for people that have a very little time between the Umrah they can do and the Hajj that they have to leave for Mina on the 8th. So, yes, that makes perfect sense. The reason I have this picture up here, Parmalut, this is the medication that works effectively for almost every single sister that I have ever spoken to, and I also have personal experience with this medication as well. Um, you see under Primalud, it says uh, norethistérone. So you can find norethistérone from the States. I have taken it. The particular experience I had was that it delayed the cycle, but it did not stop the cycle. So what happened was that it delayed the cycle by a week. So the first week in Medina was great, but it didn't stop it, which means the day that we were getting ready to leave Medina for Mecca and perform the Umrah is when it stopped working. So from personal experience, I never use medication from the States. This medication, Primalut, is available in Saudi in every pharmacy, which are called Saydaliyas. Saydaliya just means pharmacy. They're all over Makkah and Medina. This is the medication that really works in the anecdotal and personal experience of sisters that I've come into contact with and within my own family over the years. And the way to take it is you start taking it 1 week before your expected cycle date. So whenever your period is set to begin, you start taking this medication 1 week before that. You take it twice a day. You set an alarm to make sure you don't forget. You're supposed to take it at the same time, morning and evening. Start taking it a week before your expected period date and continue taking it until you are done with all of your um, Umrah and Tawaf, Hajj, everything, until you do your last Tawaf al Wida, which is the absolute last thing you do in Mecca before leaving Mecca and going to the airport. You take it until that point. And after you're done with the Tawaf al Wida, after you're done with your farewell Tawaf and you're heading to the airport, then you don't have to take it anymore. And be prepared. Some people, on their way to the airport or at the airport, they will need to be prepared for their cycle. So make sure you are packed, prepared with your handbag accordingly. Um, some people, even if they miss one dose, they do get their period. It does begin, and you don't want that happening just because you missed a dose and it's Yom Arafah, and then it's disaster because once your period starts, then nothing can stop it, right? Um, Primalut will stop working after that. If you miss a dose and your period starts, once the period starts, it's almost impossible to stop it. So take the alarms very seriously. Make sure you don't miss a dose once you start. But of course, I'm not a doctor. This is my personal experience and the experience of many, many, many of our friends and family members. But you should definitely consult a doctor before taking this medication. Make sure it is safe for you. Make sure it's okay for you to take it twice a day without any adverse reactions. Make sure it doesn't interfere with any of your other current medications. So you do have to do your homework. This is not medical advice. This is sisterly advice based on my personal experience. It has proved very effective for us, but doesn't mean it's right for you. These are some general guidelines. But again, complete medical disclaimer. You have to do your homework. You have to make sure it's safe for you to take. Is there a PDF guide for sister that can be sent out at the end? I do have an excellent PDF guide. It's more so for Umrah in terms of the manasik, but it's extremely beneficial in terms of being a spiritual and mental mindset guide, which I think is more important anyway. Manasik you can learn from any book, but the way to really benefit from those manasik is if our heart is in the right place. So if you like, I can make that PDF available to the organizers, inshallah, and they can send that out. We arrived to Medina June 9th. Does that mean we can't do Hajj Tamattu? Okay, so the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. So according to my calculation, Yom Arafah is on the 14th of June, right? So that means 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. So this makes it 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So if this is the 9, so which Arafah is the 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th. So this will be the 4th of the Hijjah, right? Yeah. So why can't you do Hajj Tamat? It's on the 4th of the Hijjah. If you arrive to Mecca before the 8th, you can still do Hajj Tamattu because that's, if again, it depends on how much time you spend in Medina. If you have a couple days in Mecca before the 8th, so if you're staying in Medina a couple nights, let's say you spend the 4th and 5th of the Hijjah in Medina, and you come to Mecca and you still have enough time to, perform the Umrah, come out of Ihram, and then go back into it, you could still do Hajj at-Tamattu. If you spend more time in Medina and you come back very close to the beginning of Hajj, yani the 8th, then it might make more sense for you to Hajj al-Quran. So that answer completely depends on when you're leaving Medina and arriving in Mecca and how much time you're going to have, before the 8th. Will it make more sense for you to stay in one ihram because of how late you arrive, or will you have a couple of days to do the umrah, come out of ihram, and then re-enter into it? So that's going to depend completely on your schedule. But it's possible. You do seem to have enough time if you only have a couple of days in Medina. I have short hair. How am I going to do? As women, we are not supposed to shave. I don't have enough to cut 2 or 3 times. Is cutting here an obligation or sunnah? So cutting is how you come out of your state of ihram. Many women have very short hair. You have to clip very little. It's not a lot of clipping. You can clip less than an inch and you come out of the state of ihram. So when you do umrah, you cut a little bit, and when you do hajj, you cut a little bit more. Women are not cutting a lot of hair at all. So depending on how much hair you have, just cut as little as possible, and you'll still have some inshallah left over to cut in hajj. It's not even a trimming. It's a very slight cutting. No, 1 centimeter, as far as I know, there's no requirement in terms of the length. As far as I know, I've never heard of the 1 centimeter before. Perhaps that opinion is out there. You would have to find a source for that opinion. I'm not aware of. Is it an obligation of sunnah? It is necessary because that's how you come out of the state of ihram. So yes, you do have. It's not just sunnah that, oh, I don't want to cut my hair. I know you do have to do it because this is how you come out of the state of ihram. So it is part of completing the umrah and the hajj properly. Is it for all your hair, just a lock? Oh yeah, just a lock of hair. You don't have to cut from everywhere. Yeah, it can be any part of your hair that is clipped. It doesn't have to. It's not a full trimming. So I think what you may be thinking of is an actual trimming that sisters go in to do, and that affects the whole circumference of their hair. That's not what this is. This is just cutting off a little bit, and I'm not aware of any specifications of certain inches or centimeters. If you are aware of any, then please share that. I would like to see that. Do we have to stone 3 days, or 1 day will be okay? Yeah, so the stoning is actually the main actions of the 11th, 12th, and 13th. On the 10th, you're stoning just the Jamratul Aqaba, and then the other 3 days you are stoning all 3 Jamarat. However, if some people are sick or elderly or weak, as I recall that they are allowed to, it's called na'ib in Arabic, yani you appoint someone to carry out the stoning on your behalf. So alhamdulillah that compensation rukhsa is there. Wallahu alam. How do we pray qasr prayer when we get in Hajj? Yeah, so the qasr starts actually on day 8 in Mina, the first day of the Hajj. When you get there, you combine Dhuhr and Asr, which means you pray 2 for Dhuhr and 2 for Asr. And then when the actual time of Asr comes, you don't have to pray anything because you already prayed in the time of Dhuhr. And the same thing for Maghrib and Isha. Maghrib, you pray 3 at the time of Maghrib, or you can pray in the time of Isha, both are allowed. And then you pray 2 for Isha, and you follow it up with Witr. So that's basically um, the way you do Qasr. But Nawafil are allowed. Some people think that, for traveling or for doing Qasr, then we can't pray any extra prayers since we're not even praying Sunnahs. Why should we pray um, extra? But actually, from the Sunnah, we say that the Prophet ﷺ in traveling would be praying Nawafil. The actual Fard prayers he would shorten and combine, but then there's no restriction on not praying other extra prayers as you like. Wallahu alam. Okay. What colors should women try to wear? There are no color requirements. Generally, the Islamic guidelines for women are to wear modest colors that are not extremely attention grabbing. The same would apply for Hajj. That's from an Islamic standpoint. From a practical standpoint, if you can avoid dark colors, that may be better because it's going to be over 100 degrees. I checked the other day, it was like 103 a few days ago, and it's only May. Hajj is going to be in June, so it's going to be peak heat season. So you want to make sure that you don't wear colors that if you tend to get too hot in them. So if you can wear lighter colors, which are not transparent, because that's the problem with lighter colors, that they tend to become transparent and then it becomes problematic. So um, any colors that are modest, but also, uh, better suited to the extremely hot weather, which we can expect and prepare for. Also, is required for women to wear sandals. Foot gear is extremely important. The Sheikh mentioned yesterday, yes, there'll be buses going to every location. But when you get to that location, you're walking in those locations, right? So when you get to, so yes, there's a bus from the airport to your hotel, but once you get to the Haram, you're doing tawaf, you're walking in tawaf, you're walking in sa'i. Same thing with Mina. Yeah, you get a bus to go to Mina, but then you walk to the Jamarat every single day to do the stoning, right? So yes, there is a lot of walking. So uh, good footwear is incredibly important to invest in. I made the mistake of investing very late. So you do pay for that. Make sure you have extremely comfortable sandals, and we should actually begin practicing right now. It's only about a month, less than a month left till most of your flights depart. So we should add in a regular regimen of exercise, prolonged walking, and do that in the sandals you're planning to wear in your Hajj journey to make sure that you don't develop some problems after a few hours or a few days. So definitely try out your foot gear starting now, inshallah. What if your hair falls off? Yeah, so there's no fidya for hair that falls off naturally. In ihram, that's going to happen. You should just not actively be like, vigorously brushing or combing or really, rubbing your hair as you shower, for example, in ihram. You're allowed to shower, but avoid those actions that you know are going to make your hair fall out more than they normally would. But if it normally falls off, then you don't have to do any type of compensation or dam or fidya. What sunscreen can you recommend? So SPF of 30 and up is supposed to be good just from a regular dermatologist recommendation perspective. But if you have a specific skin conditions or needs, then you would have to look into that. But SPF of 30 or more is recommended. What if we can't do Umrah due to period and we'll be in cycle during Hajj days, and then we'll be clean after the 10th? So would we intend for Ifrad or to do the Umrah after Hajj? If you become clean after the 10th of the Hajj, you have no Hajj because you missed the ninth, which is so actually, if you're not physically present on the day of Arafah, that's considered missing the Hajj. But if you're in your period, but you're present on Yom Arafah, then it would still count for you, and you just do those things like the Umrah that you were not able to do because of your cycle. Yes, you can do them after Hajj because this is what happened to exactly what happened to Aisha radiallahu anha during the Hajj season. She was not able to make to do the Umrah. So the Prophet ﷺ told her, do everything else the Hujjaj are doing, and until you're clean. And once she became clean, and she was concerned that everyone else is going back with the Hajj and Umrah, and I'm going back only with one manasik, with only the Hajj. So then this is where we learned about the miqat of people in Mecca as you go out to Masjid Aisha, place called the Naim, which is the miqat, and you put on your ihram from there. And then that's what she did and came back and did the Umrah. So yes, as long as you are physically present, Yom Arafah, even if you have your period, that counts. Because ritual purity is not required for Yom Arafah to count for you. It still counts. So the only thing you would have to wait for is to become pure and then go to the Miqat, Masjid Aisha, Tanaim, put on your ihram from there, and then do the Umrah. Wallahu ta'ala alam. If I'm on birth control, is that okay? Yeah, birth control has no effect on the validity of your Hajj. In fact, it only helps because, as far as I know, that will prevent your cycle from coming on. So if that's what you're normally on, that has no implication for the validity of Hajj or Umrah. Okay, I think we covered this about if we have our period and Hajj days, do we do all the steps except tawaf and sa'i? What about tawaf at the beginning? Yeah, actually, you can do sa'i, you just can't do tawaf. You can do tawaf at the beginning, which is tawaf al-qudum, and you can do the tawaf that's done on the 10th day, tawaf al-ifada. But everything else you can do. And the reason you can't do tawaf is because um, the Prophet ﷺ told us that tawaf is just like salah, right? So all the shurut, the conditions for valid prayer, which include total ritual purification, are the same requirements for tawaf, which is why, if you break your wudu during tawaf, you have to stop and go and make wudu again and then resume the tawaf from the circuit that you left off. You don't have to start it from the beginning. So let's say you break your wudu in the third tawaf, then you just come back into the third circuit and finish the seven. Is it recommended to give them to be safe to cover any mistakes that might have happened due to ignorance? I don't think you should just be giving them to be on the safe side because it is recommended for specific omissions. If we start giving them to be on the safe side, just in case, um, then this really opens up the door of waswas, right? The waswas of shaitan. Oh, what if I didn't do this right? Okay, let me give them. Like, what if I didn't do this? Then it never ends. So we should try to, the hadith saddidu wa qaribu, right? Try to be as close to perfection as possible and try to do things as correctly as possible, as much according to the sunnah as possible. And if you become aware of a omission that you certainly did, in fact, leave out that you should have done, then you give them. And of course, if you want to give sadaqah, that's something different. You can give sadaqah as much as you want. That's something recommended anyway. And inshallah, we hope that expiates our sins and our mistakes for us. But this idea of let me just give them, let me sacrifice a sheep every time I may have done something, it's not spiritually healthy long term. Wallahu alam, that's just my opinion. What is the reason behind stoning? Okay, yeah. So inshallah, we'll get into all of these things when we inshallah are there and are going out to do those things. Inshallah, we'll have sessions on the wisdoms and the context of each of those rituals. So inshallah, we'll leave that for that time. That is a good question. How many stones we throw each day? Yeah, so day 10, Yom al-Nahr, the day of sacrifice, you throw 7 stones at Jamrat al-Aqaba, the biggest stone, the biggest, I don't want to call it the biggest devil. I don't know what it's called in English. I'll have to find out. The biggest one is what I'm calling it. So it's just 7 on day 10, and then day 11, it's 7 for each of the 3. So there are 3 jamarat, the big one, the middle one, and the small one. Each one you stone 7 times. So if you're doing that on day 11, you'll need 7 stones for each. So that's 21 stones for day 11, then another 21 for day 12, another 21 for day 13 if you do decide to stay until the 13th. Can we use medical face mask during Hajj? Totally up to you. The Sheikh was mentioning yesterday how, yes, it is highly recommended because there will be millions of people there, literally, especially if you are immunocompromised. That is probably going to be a very good idea to ensure your health, which you'll really have to be careful about in order to fulfill all the manasik, inshallah, in a enjoyable way. Do we get to stay with our group the whole time? How's it managed practically? As I am very much scared of getting lost in the crowds. Yeah, inshallah, we're hearing that it's going to definitely be a group effort. That everything is going to be done as a group, inshallah, all the major monastics. So it sounds like we're going to, try to do most things together. But yeah, it's true. People do get lost. Um, don't have to be scared because literally, it's like millions of people in the same place. You should know the name of your hotel. You should know the number of your camp in Mina. You should have data, like the Sheikh was saying, so you can call someone. Um, so, like they'll be sharing the location. Have a buddy, have a partner. Don't go out alone. Try to orient yourself. So, inshallah, it should be okay. But yes, these things do happen. People do get lost. So some of those. So having a phone is really important. Make sure you have a charger, and hopefully, inshallah, be able to contact someone in the event that you do get lost. Do you prefer wearing shoes or sandals as there's a lot of walking? Yes. So actually, um, I developed a foot condition because of improper footwear, and so now last time I was in the haram, I actually had to wear my sneakers. I could not even wear sandals. I have to wear extremely cushioned sneakers to actually keep going. And initially, we used to feel very guilty about this, but now you see more and more people wearing shoes in the haram. Just make sure they're clean. The guards are all wearing shoes, and people who have conditions that they would not be able to do the tawaf or their sa'i. They would not be able to last more than a day or two if they didn't wear the type of shoes that they needed. So that's why trying out your footwear from now is very important. Sometimes a shoe works for a few days and then you develop calluses or conditions or find that it's not, the right kind. You have to start practicing out whatever shoes you're going to wear and wear them for at least a few miles a day. Okay, that sounds like a lot, but that's like 10,000 steps, which is recommended anyway, is about 4 miles. It takes a couple hours to do, but that's really the only way to know if you're going to be able to, do the prolonged walking that is required to have a comfortable Hajj. And it's very difficult to find proper shoes in Hajj. Yes, you can buy everything there, but I would not recommend shoes as one of those things, especially if you have a special condition. Try to get best footwear. The one I recommend because I started wearing them is called Hoka, Hoka. Hoka sneakers. They are a bit pricey, but they're really worth it. They're an investment um, for your health and for your ibadah, really. Can we bring snacks while we spend nights in Muzdalifah and Mina? Yes, you can certainly bring snacks. You should have snacks in your backpack. Although there's lots of food available, it may not be when you, need it. You may need it at a time, So it's always best to have some types of, dry snacks, bars. Hydration packets are very useful. We get the IV liquid hydration from Costco or your local stores. You can put them in a bottle. It's a powder that has electrolytes. So that's very helpful, especially in high heat season, which will be June. Just to put that into a bottle of Zamzam, once a day can be very helpful. So yes, snacks are always a good idea. If your hair is braided, what is the recommendation of cutting your hair? If you don't want to open the braid, you can snip a little bit from the bottom. Again, I'm not aware of any a number of inches or centimeters that have to be cut. If anyone is aware of that, I'd love to see the source for it. As far as I know, as long as you clip some hair that is considered you having clipped a part of your hair, it inshallah fulfills the recommendation for coming out of ihram. Can you recommend where to buy abayas made out of lightweight, breathable fabric like cotton? You can try online options like Modanisa, like AliExpress. There are so many online now that offer these kinds of. There's another website or an actual physical store as well in the Central Jersey area, or they sometimes have stalls at conventions. It's called Burda, Burda. I believe they may have something online as well. Um, so Modanisa, Burda, Burda, AliExpress, or you can just look up modest Islamic clothing, abayas. Lots of websites will come up. The only thing is sizing is tricky. Um, so you may want to order something now to make sure that it works for you. Altogether, how many stones should we collect from Muzdalifah? Yes, 70. Yes, that's the right answer. What if sunscreen has alcohol as an ingredient? Um, okay, that's a fiqh question. So you will, it depends on what you are comfortable with. Some people will say, well, you're not eating the alcohol, right? You're just like putting it on your body. Certain lotions, certain shampoos, certain, may have ingredients. So it depends on what you're comfortable with. You are not eating the sunscreen, right? But if you're not comfortable with alcohol as the ingredient, then it is something you would avoid. I don't know the exact fiqh recommendation or ruling on that issue. Again, it's something inshallah we can look into. How much should we climb Arafah? I don't know how much you should climb Arafah. The what is required is wuquf bil Arafah. So what is required is um, standing in the grounds or the plains of Arafah in that general location, that general locality. It actually counts as you having witnessed or been present on the day of Arafah in that general locality and location. So that is what is required. As far as how much we should climb, what is recommended, wallahu alam, I don't know. What if you get your period and can't do tawaf al-wida? Yeah, there's nothing you have to do if you can't do tawaf al-wida. That's not part of the arkan anyway, right? That's not part of the mandatory rituals of Hajj that would invalidate the Hajj. No, not at all. You don't. There's no fidya for it. There's no dam, nothing at all. It's just something you should do. It's recommended tawaf. But if you can't because of your period, then there's nothing to be done. Can you wear a hat over a hijab to protect from the sun? Yes, women have no restrictions in terms of clothing or I know the covering of the face is like the garment should not touch the face, but like the hat is not going to be on your face anyway. So as far as I know, the hat is not an issue. Can wear sunglasses while do with off to protect? Yes. As far as I know, there's no again restriction for women in terms of sunglasses, which are like glasses physically, and people wear glasses because they wouldn't be able to see without them. Um, so sunglasses would be just like glasses. Okay, so alhamdulillah, that is the end of today's session. Jazakallah khair for your participation. And inshallah, I think there'll be more webinars organized by the team. And Jazakallah khair for attending. And I hope to meet again very soon. Inshallah, looking forward to having a wonderful Hajj. سبحانك وبحمدك لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.